So, welcome everybody here from a beautiful day in space today. We are broadcasting live and we're recording this session. My name is Hans Christian Bjørn. I'm co-founder here at The Factory. And we're so pleased to be looking forward to this day to share with you the results of some research we've been doing for the last year. And the theme today is, of course, about how startups and corporates can collaborate together for the next business opportunities. So, Tatiana, could you help me here? We have a picture of the team. This is The Factory. We are a private accelerator and startup hub based in Oslo, Norway. We were proudly awarded the best accelerate program in the Nordics in 2019. And we work to support startups and founders in Norway and across the Nordics in a couple of different sectors that I will come back to. But we are working in the early stages with accelerated programs. We have growth services, and we also work with our partners to accelerate their innovation. Next slide, please. So we've been in operation for 5 years, and there's been a lot of activity going on. We have accelerated more than 100 startups, and we've made investment into 44 companies as of now in the portfolio. Really, really exciting companies. Unfortunately, don't have time to go into all of them today, but you can check them out at thefactory.no/startups. So we take a board seat and we work with the companies a long time after accelerated program. We also have a great network of angel investors, VC investors and mentors, and we have just raised our own fund, the Factory Norway Fund 1, which means that we can both invest in seed stage and pre-seed startups. So we are very excited about that and being able to doing some exciting follow-up investments. We work primarily in fintech, proptech and smart city, energy-related startups, circular economy, impact retail, and logistics. So a lot of exciting stuff happening here in the Nordics. Next slide, please. And what we believed from the start, and that we actually started seeing happen, is that some of these startups and corporates team up together, and we call it power coupling. It's when an agile and fast-moving startup, which is coming up with a disruptive or a very innovative solution, can team up with a more established player to solve a real problem. And it's really exciting to see that this is happening with our portfolio companies and large players and banks and insurance companies and others, real estate companies here in the Nordics. So with that in mind, we saw a lot of success stories. We also saw a lot of struggles, and we wanted to go deeper into this. Can you take the next, please? So this is why we decided to start a research project on the collaborations between corporates and startups, and so a research we've been doing in the last year. And we are very thankful for the support we got from Oslo Kommune, the municipality of Oslo, to do this research because they found it very important. So what we wanted to do is to look at the rationale behind startup corporate collaborations, the organization and management of such collaborations, the risks, failures, and pitfalls, and also do some case studies on successes and failures. And finally, come up with some best practices and recommendations. Next slide, please. So here's the team. Myself here to the left, co-founder of The Factory. Been very happy to work with Tatiana Pisarevskaya, who has been program and social media coordinator and helping us a lot with this research. And then we've had Dennis Gahn, a doctoral research fellow from University of Oslo, who's been helping us and guiding us on the theoretical parts of the research. Next slide, please. And I would then like to hand it to you, Tatiana, so you can tell us a bit more about the research and the results we've had here. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Hans Christian. So the floor is mine now. And yes, I would be happy to tell how we did this research. It was a really long road, and it was very exciting for us. We used a survey to interview Norwegian and Nordic startup hubs, startups and corporates engaged in the startup ecosystem, as well as the leaders of the Global Accelerator Network. We also got a very great input from the academia, like University of Oslo and BI Norwegian Business School. And we also relied on a lot of previous research on the topic called desktop research of international studies. We have 52 quality interviews, which include experts, big corporates and hubs, universities and startups. As I mentioned before, the gun leaders, big corporates like Ubus, MasterCard, Telia, Avantgarde Search, SEB, Finance Innovation, and many, many more, as well as 2 universities, and the most exciting startups in the Nordic ecosystem, like Unlock, Smith, South Sensing, BizBot, Safe Design, NN, Blink, Luca Labs, and many, many more. So I'm going further. And as a result, this research gave us a guide to startup corporate relationships. And this is something we're going to talk about today. This is how it looks like. And we're very, very happy to actually present it today here. We're super grateful to the factory team, Hans Christian, and the rest. Also, it's been very exciting to work with the designer, Bjorn Johannesson, who helped us to make it so beautiful, as you can see here. And we are very happy to actually present the framework for startups and corporates, which they can rely on when they research on startup corporate collaborations, when they research on the reasons of these collaborations, and when they want to know some failures and success stories, which always happen here.
And can I just add that even if the colors are bright, we think there can be some glamour and love in these relationships, but of course there are some seriousness in it too. We just wanted the magazine to be appealing, so that's why we chose this design. But it can be both ups and downs in these relationships, which we'll come back to.
Definitely. So the first part of our magazine starts with the title "The Crush." And here we explain how corporates and startups fall in love with each other. As you can see, we use this metaphor of love throughout the magazine because we want to take it from the positive view and focus on the success stories and some great things happening in the area. In the first part of the magazine, we have researched the main reasons why parties collaborate. And the first part is devoted to top 5 reasons why corporates get a crush on startups, as we say. And here there are 5 reasons that we outlined. Number 1, startups can deliver new solutions that help corporates serve their customers better. Number 2, startups can help corporates to innovate and optimize efficiency. Number 3, startups provide an opportunity for corporates to enter new market areas. Number 4, corporates collaborate with startups to strengthen their brand and CSR strategies. And the last one, but not least, corporates engage in collaboration with startups to acquire tech and talent, so-called acqui-hire strategy. So every reason is supported with an example, with an illustration from the Nordic startup scene, as you can read in the magazine later. But I would like to outline number 3. Startups provide an opportunity for corporates to enter new market areas. Here we have Moner and Sparebank N as an example, because Sparebank N acquired Moner, and this allowed them to enter into new market areas to actually get closer to the startup ecosystem. And the same side of the coin, kind of, we have top 5 reasons why startups get a crush on corporates. And here there are also 5 reasons that we outlined. Number 1, why startups get a crush on corporates: to gain credibility and legitimacy. Number 2, to validate their ideas, proof of concept or minimum viable product. Number 3, to get mentoring, feedback, and additional resources. Number 4, to gain potential funding, or so-called CVC strategy. And the last one, to gain access to data, test data, customer data, etc. Yeah, and as in the previous case, every reason is supported with the example from the Norwegian startup scene. And I think the most exciting example here could be Safe Design, who partnered up with Ubus to actually test their minimum viable product and test their concept as well, which they are successfully doing today with Ubus. We also tried to shed some light on dating arenas and follow-ups concerning startup corporate collaborations. And thanks to our friends from Soprasteria, who made research Mind the Gap. I'm sorry. They provided us with a really nice data on that. You can see here on this graph that very often speed datings are the events that lead to startup corporate collaborations. Next comes tech conferences, then could be pitching competitions, and last but not least, hackathons. And what is interesting for us, we can see here how often do business support programs lead to follow-up startups. And partnership programs and accelerators are in the top here. And this is a very good news for us, being an accelerator company. Yes, so the lessons learned from part 1. Both parties should have a smart crush, which means they should have a clear idea why they're collaborating with each other. This is a very nice page devoted to this in the magazine. We have some outlines here. For example, startups and corporates should know what they want and why they're looking for a partner. They should always do some research before they go into partnerships, do some background checks on history and reputations. Both parties should understand their needs and people. And this advice is mainly for startups. They should look for someone within a big corporate who can let them into the organization. This is very important. And I think I'm giving the floor to Hans Christian now, who will talk about part 2, dangers and pitfalls of these collaborations.
Thank you, Tatiana. As I said, there are some dangers and pitfalls in these kind of relationships. There are upsides, but there are also definite possibilities of downsides that both parties should be aware of. Can you take the next slide, please?
Yes.
And one of the findings we found interesting is that as many as 55% of startups are very dissatisfied or somewhat dissatisfied with their partnerships, and 45% of corporates are saying the same, that they are somewhat dissatisfied or very dissatisfied with the corporation. So clearly something is not always working out the way as they were intended. But if you look at the flip side, of course, about half of the relationships are also considered to be very fruitful. So it's not all bad, but it's definitely something here to be aware of. So we can take the next slide, Tatiana. And when you look at this, it's kind of, being dissatisfied can be very different from a corporate and a startup, right? Because the risk involved for a corporate, it's kind of maybe just another project that they're doing, one amongst very many. But for the startup, it can be really about to be or not to be. We have lined out what was listed as the main risks for the corporates, and that's sort of the reputational risks. If the startup could put the brand or values at risk, if it is any risk of security and compliance to the corporate or its customers, in terms of the startup solution. And of course, the main concern for a corporate is whether the startup will be there tomorrow at all. Will it survive? So you invest resources and time into this, and then maybe the startup goes out of business in the next 12 months. But still, there are a lot of upsides for the corporates to do this kind of experimentation in innovation to bring things further. So that risk may be acceptable. On the startup side, it's really a risk of, will this corporate keep its promises and keep prioritizing us? Will they stick to what they say, that they will really work with us to make this happen and launch our product in the market? The startup may feel risk of giving up its IP or trade secrets, because that's really what all it has is the concept and the team. And a very real risk is, of course, getting stuck in bureaucracy and losing the direction and spirit and identity. If you get sort of thrown around in a large organization, and as a result of that, there is a clear risk of running out of time or cash. So startups should be very wary about these things and really demand a good plan of action and clarity in the resources that are to join the project. And also, we've talked to startups that have said, never put all your eggs in one corporate basket, because things can take really long time, and you need to not be all dependent on that one progress. Next slide, please. And here you can see the top listed reasons for why startup corporate collaborations often fail. And the top listed reason, most frequent reason, is no commitment from top management, which means that you don't get the resources or the priority that you need to make this thing fly, basically. Because if it's going to fly, it needs to be pushed from the top, and people need to be encouraged to spend their time with the startup. Bureaucracy, too many people involved. Too many small kings and queens that want to have a say on the project. Definitely different expectations on the pace and the time is a big reason. Startups are like children; they're very impatient. They want to get their product out there, and the corporate may have a lot of different things going on in parallel. So that's definitely something. And also, of course, cultural differences. Internal politics and resistance can be a real one. Startups can meet, people inside the organizations who are, not really wanting this product because it can be a threat to their operations, or they feel that it's not invented here. So they may not be so positive. So you will have ambassadors, and you can have people that are less interested in the project. Tatiana, are we sharing?
Yeah, something happened. Just a second. I'll fix it. Good. We're back.
We're back. Thank you. And finally, shifts in corporate priorities. It could be that what was really hot last winter is not suddenly the priority of the corporate anymore. And then you're left in a vacuum. You spent a lot of time and resources. So that's the main reasons that were most frequently listed among survey participants as the reasons for failure. Can we take the next, please? And as a result of this, we also have developed a rules of engagement, and we encourage both startups and corporates to read up on this and be really respectful of this, because it's a matter of people's dreams, people's jobs, people's future, and therefore I'd like to emphasize particularly number 3 here, that startups and corporations have different sizes and power, and therefore parties must be honest, transparent about their interests and their related initiatives, and never intentionally misleading or fishing for information. So please do not engage in a process with a startup if there's any known conflict of interest, because that could be very harmful for both parties. Next slide, please. Now we're going to hear it from some real stories from the battlefield. So we have with us some excellent speakers here today, and we're going to invite to stage. Next slide, please, Tatiana. We're going to invite Bizbot, one of our alumni startups, and BDO. And we have Didrik Martens, the CEO of Bizbot, and Magnus Garden, who is manager of strategy and business development at BDO Norway. And we are curious to hear how deep is your love, just like Bee Gees said in their text here. So we'll leave it to you to present a bit for us and tell us a bit about how you decided to collaborate. And then we'll follow up with some questions. And if anybody else have questions for these cases, you may use the chat, and might select some of them if there is time. Take it away, Magnus.
All right. Hello, everybody. I'm Magnus from BDO, and thank you for having me to the factory. If you could bring up the next slide, Tatiana. Uh, I've I've only brought two slides for this, and this one is intended to show you that BDO is a big company, and when it comes to innovation and transformation, our goal is always to simplify the day-to-day for our advisors, but most importantly for our clients, and there are a lot of them. We are 1,700 employees, advisors in Norway, and we have over 40,000 clients. And as BDO, developing core technology supporting our standard business processes for audit, accounting, legal, and advisory. This is something that we feel we are really good at. But there are some things, some of the things we want to do where us developing it is not efficient or suitable. And this is where we really need partners. So next slide, please, Tatiana. Evolver is a company and a program by BDO to ensure that we get the impulses and also take part in technology trends and solutions where we are not necessarily the experts or where the technology is not suited for us to develop ourselves. And the investment strategy for Evolver is based on the same principle that I mentioned before, to simplify the day-to-day for our advisors, but most importantly, to create value for our clients. So Evolver works or invests in a company, then BDO partners with the company and works with them in product development to create a solution that is suited for our over 40,000 clients. And after the product is ready, we start training our advisors and go to market to go to the market to serve our customers. And through this program, we met Bispot, and they had a great idea that matched up with our strategy. And then we went to work together. So I'll pass it along to you then, Didrik.
Yes. Thank you very much. My name is Didrik, and I'm the founder and CEO of Bispot. And what we are trying to do is to simplify business administration. And the reason is that I was a founder before this, or an entrepreneur before this, on a story that failed, and I realized that I spent too much time on paperwork and administration. And that's why I wanted to create a platform where we could solve most of these tasks. If you can go to the next slide, Tatiana. So what are we doing? We are very focused on business administration and trying to solve things that are manual and not digital at the moment. And what we saw was that the cap table and the cap table management and everything you do around working with investors and the board was quite important. And when we met Evolver and BDO, we felt like we had something going on. So I'm not going to talk more about Bispot. If you want to know more, reach out to me later. We are looking for partners because we are a platform and not just a tool. So please reach out. But the story about how we met Evolver was actually that I'm not sure if Hans Christian, if you had that on your slides, but we met BDO through our network. We were actually BDO was, or Evolver was introduced through one of the VC companies in Norway that we had been in touch with for a while. And Evolver talked to them, and they said, talk to Bispot because we think you are a match. So actually through introduction and network, we got introduced, and I think after just 4 months after we met for the first time, we actually had an agreement. And Magnus, maybe you could say something about the value that you saw or the opportunities you saw in Bispot.
Yeah, for us, we saw a flexible platform with a lot of future potential, as well as a clear value proposition to simplify one of the medial tasks for our advisors and clients. Yeah, so we saw the promise of saving time for our advisors and also making the everyday easier for our clients, reducing stress when they need to deliver the shareholder registry. So the application was very focused on a singular problem, and that made it very easy for us to get on board.
Yeah, and I will be honest and say that we became more focused after meeting BDO. We were trying out a little bit different things, and how can we get to the market. But after we met BDO, we saw that one of the things that we were doing was a huge problem, and then we got even more focused. And I'm not going to talk in details about what we do, but it's about the cap table and the shareholders registry, or aksjonærregisteroppgaven. That's what we're solving. So right now we're solving one very specific problem that a lot of the clients of BDO, they have to send in this report every year. So now we are very focused, but also we have in the backlog, we have several other tasks connected to this, or that we will work on later.
Could you maybe address? Thank you, guys. It's really exciting to hear, and it sounds like a match made in heaven. So let's hope it will be. Tell us a bit. How did you sort of? How did you establish the wanted outcome for both parties? You know, what were you clear about that, Magnus? What you wanted this to become, in a sense?
Yes, for the first step, like I said, the idea or the problem that we wanted to solve is very concrete. So that sort of made it very clear for both parties where we needed to end up. And then we went to work and added some quality assurance and also some testing on the product as well, in order to move it along towards that goal. And the goal for this is always it's every year. So we did have an established timeline for that.
Mm-hmm. And Didrik, I have to ask you also, because I know you and we've been working with you for a while. You have been, dating a lot of different corporates, right? Tell us briefly about that, because I believe that not always so easy to go from dating to action, in a sense, in this context of really making a partnership work.
Yeah. I mean, you first you have to look at yourself and see if you are ready to work with a big corporate. Is your product? Can you receive 10,000 clients overnight? What about security? So there's a lot of things you need to be aware of, because as an entrepreneur, it's very easy to get carried away that you can get access to lots of customers, but lots of customers means lots of responsibility, because it's not early adopters anymore. You have the real clients who and as you mentioned about this, the brand, the big corporates, they don't want any failures on security and stuff like that. So that you have to be honest on that part, and then next up, I would in general recommend not to spend too much time. If there is no action being done to the next meeting, I would rather wait another 6 months to pick up the phone for half an hour and see where we are now. Because when you have met 40 people in a corporate, meaning a lot more than 40 meetings, for me that means like 100 hours spent, and it took me nowhere, and that's a lot more risk for a small startup. For me, to where I spend my time, that's the most valuable thing I have. But for the corporate, it's not that dangerous. Everybody has half an hour to talk to a startup because it's fun. It's always fun because it's something new and exciting.
But
so,
that's kind of an important advice to corporates. Then don't waste our time, or be sincere. If you're really interested, then get us to the right resources in the organizations quickly, and then let's get moving, and not just being toggled around in different departments and have a half-hour meeting there and you don't know really. You get lost a bit.
And I agree. Of course, you can tell it to the corporates, but I think you need to be responsible for that part also yourself, because you might meet people that want to work with you and think it's exciting, but they are blocked somewhere else in the organization. Also, back to if things are rooted at top level management or not. But even there, I was on the top, and then I went further down, and then they would like to report back up, but they had some leaders in between that stopped the whole project. So again, I think you just need to take responsibility and make sure if there is no movement, that's nothing wrong. But then wait and spend your time elsewhere, and don't burn any bridges. Why? It might just be as simple as the wrong timing. It might go
But
later.
with BDO and Evolver, you were able to find one entry point and sort of get to agreement. Is that right? Quicker.
Yes. Yeah. So actually, as I mentioned earlier, we met, and 4 months later we had an agreement, and the outcome for us was pretty clear. We are fundraising as always, and BDO or Evolver invested, and we have now an agreement to get access, as Magnus mentioned, to their clients, which is two huge needs for us as a startup.
So, Magnus, how satisfied are you with this collaboration? Where are you now?
We're very satisfied. We're through the honeymoon phase, and now the real work begins. We're establishing a clear go-to-market strategy where we need to get the whole BDO family involved and make sure that they reach the clients. And the feedback from our advisors is very positive on the product and on the platform as well. So we look at the future. It's looking bright.
It's looking bright. I'm very happy to hear that. And Didrik, what's been the most valuable for you working with a big player like BDO Evolver?
I think it must be feedback on our product with people who work with this every day, and of course getting access to funding, and also all the customers that we can potentially reach.
Tatiana, I'd like to challenge Magnus here for a moment. Can you pull up the slide you showed about the main reasons for corporates getting a crush on a startup? Can you find that slide and then see if some of them resonate with him? Magnus, if we look at these top 5 reasons,
yep.
Can you comment a bit? Are we a bit on the track here with Didrik? And
I do recognize, or I do think that we tick the boxes in several of them, if not all. But something that sort of stands out is the number 1 there, with the new solutions that help us serve our customers better. I think I pointed to that in the presentation. And the number 3, I think, is also very, very good. As Didrik provides the technology and the platform, then we provide the service in an online platform. I think that's a new market that we really wanted to explore, and I think that's very necessary for our industry going forward as well. So we tick all the boxes, but maybe especially number 1 and number 3 there.
Okay, and then let's go to Didrik. Can we show the other slide, Tatiana? You have it there. Can we see the one there? Is this?
Yeah.
If you were to pick a couple of these that really you feel that this partnership is giving you.
I would say number 1, of course, we are associated with a brand that are pretty recognized worldwide. Number 2, they can validate what we're doing. Very important. We get a lot of mentoring and feedback on our product, because there are auditors and accountants testing our platform a lot. Funding we talked about already, and of course they also have a lot of customers. So I would say in this case all of them.
Perfect. Thank you, guys. I think we need to move on to the next panel, where we have very lucky to be joined by Anna Karin Østli, who's the managing director of Mastercard Payments Services here in Norway, and we have Kirsten Fladby Jarneid, who's product manager and tech strategy lead at Vipps. So pleased to have you both here. And some of you may think, but who's the startup here? You know, Vipps has grown pretty big in the last couple of years, but we're going to talk a little bit about the early days and the partnership that you guys found from when Vipps was to be considered a startup. So please introduce Anna Karin and Kirsten. You're welcome to give us a bit of background on this partnership that you established.
Yes, thank you so much, Hans Christian. So yes, well, let's go back a couple of years, maybe 3-4 years, when Vipps we were very big in the peer-to-peer market, meaning when consumers send money to each other. Vipps had a pretty big brand, but we saw that we wanted to continue to grow, and we wanted and needed more legs to stand on. To be able to continue the journey where we actually provide a real value proposition to our users. And you can go to the next slide, please. And as many of you know, in the beginning, Vipps is a bunch, or was a bunch, of both bank people, but also really good at marketing and brand building. So it was a lot of creativity, a lot of brand knowledge, and a lot of, what could I say, the growth mindset. We wanted to do something nice and exciting and kind of like innovate in the invoice sector. We knew that for a long time because we saw that kind of like the invoice with the paper invoices, that was kind of like a real use case where we actually could create a real value for our end users. So at this point, we had about between 3 and 4 million end users. So we had actually launched and created our own regninger or invoice service. But we saw that we didn't get kind of like the growth and the growth and kind of like the punch that we really wanted, and what we kind of like want in all the services we are working on. So we realized, okay, we need a partner, and we need someone who can help us with the knowledge, but also having the technical capabilities to make regninger in Vipps, invoices in Vipps, and also let us join the e-faktura system. And
so who made the first move? You know, was it you or was it the other one?
So I think Anna Karin, you are probably the best person to answer that question, if she's here.
Anna Karin, are you muted?
Apologize. Yeah. So we in Mastercard Payment Services, we actually made the first move, but I'm not sure if Vipps, the Vipps people realized that that's what we were trying to do. Okay. I will explain why. So this summer in 2018, I had just started in what today is Mastercard Payment Services. It's an organization that has worked for 50 years with developing and running mission critical infrastructure. We have some really strong technical knowledge that people are proud in. But we are an organization that is very organized, relatively risk averse at the time. Everything has to be documented and analyzed in detail before we do anything. And Kirsten is laughing. And that means that when this organization, about 6 months before I joined, made the first move with Vipps, I am not sure that Vipps realized that that was what was actually happening. So when you come up to what we call Fort Knox, we have illustrated it with Fort Knox here. So the office where our tech and product people are located. The first thing that meets you is double doors, and it's bulletproof glass. It's like entering into the gold reserve when you come up there.
Is it literally true? Is this real?
Yeah. Yeah, I will invite you, Hans, okay. And then you'll see. And that is very illustrative. That entrance is very illustrative for how the culture was at the time. And it was really important to be risk averse, to not make any moves before everything was documented, to think things through properly. When you actually are given the trust of central banks and authorities to manage an infrastructure that, if it stops working, will stop all cash flows in the whole country. So it has really big consequences if someone makes a mistake in a culture like that. So I had worked with many of the VIPS people before, because I came from DNB. So it was not so surprising for me, but for many of my colleagues, meeting Kirsten's colleagues was a really big shock. So they met people who seemed to be changing their priorities all the time. It was people who had not analyzed and thought through, but just threw out ideas, and that was very stressful for our engineers and product people. And you know, they were, instead of the large 20-30 pages, very detailed documents that we were used to receiving, or our people were used to receiving before they could start working on something, it was just pictures. Very, very confusing and difficult to understand. Next slide, please. So this was very illustrative for how this way of trying to communicate and get to know each other happened at that time. So you can see from the email that Rune has sent that he is maybe starting to become a bit impatient with these people who want a lot of details and who keep sending him these long emails with a lot of detailed questions, when everything he wants is to get people together to work towards some intentions that he feels are very, very clear. So
and Rune being then the boss of the startup here in this case,
yeah.
right?
Rune is Rune Gaber in VIPS.
Yeah.
So there were many emails, and this is just a screenshot from an email. Yeah, if you printed it out, it would have been 5-6 pages. There were many emails like that sent back and forth, and I have to say the tension was increasing. I think VIPS thought or felt that the Fort Knox people up in MasterCard tried to push them away rather than trying to get closer to them. Mm-hmm. And every time my colleagues got an email like this from VIPS, we gathered 10 to 12 people and started to analyzing in detail every sentence to try to understand what Rune really meant. Yeah. Because our people were used to getting very detailed instructions from large banks, and this was so unspecific for them. So it's really, really difficult to get their heads around. And we were laughing about it. So this Kahoot question here comes from a celebration we had after we had actually managed to both work together, but also create some really exciting results together.
Can you translate it, Anna-Karin? Can you translate it for our English user? What does it say? The Kahoot question here?
So the Kahoot question is, how many internal meetings did we organize in DNet, so now it's part of MasterCard, to analyze what Rune meant with this specific email? And the right answer is 10. So we got an email like this. We gathered 10, 12 people together for 10 hours, so more than 100 man hours to try to understand what actually was meant. And it's easy to laugh about it now, but no wonder that we really had a challenge to communicate between us. So what we should have done instead, and what we luckily Kirsten's predecessor Emma and I saw, was that this is leading nowhere. I need to take my people out of Fort Knox and bring them down to VIPS in Trälasgata and go there and ask Rune instead of spending all this time trying to understand what he means.
Communicate.
So, yeah, so it was when we brought our team down to VIPS location in Björvik, and we put people together in the same room in front of a whiteboard and started working together, that we discovered that despite these really different cultures, people were very similar, and it was much easier to find good solutions together than we actually had thought. So next slide, Kirsten, because the results are really impressive.
Yes, I see the figures is not in the slides anymore, but I have them in my head, so that's totally fine. So if we look at the blue line, that shows the figures from 2018, which was the year before we launched the corporation. So just so you know, for the record, the corporation was that we launched Vipps e-faktura, which is that all users of Vipps could pay their e-faktura invoices in Vipps, but also that we, the Vipps users that had said ja takk til alle, that had said yes to be part of the e-faktura universe, could also be part of MasterCard's database. So if you look at the blue line, which shows the figures of 2018, the year before we launched, on the top of the blue line, that shows the end of the year. MasterCard had about 100 million invoices launched that year, which is a great volume. But when we look at the figures that's supposed to be on the orange line, we launched in March 2019, and already in September, together we hit the same figures as MasterCard did in 1 year. So we hit 1 million digital invoices, and at the end of 2019, we managed to have 140 million invoices. So a pretty significant growth in 1 year.
That's amazing.
So that's awesome. And if you look at the 2020 figures, we have now reached 164 million digital invoices, which is about 64 million in 2 years. And why is this something that we are very proud of and stoked about? And there are many reasons, but first of all, for the environment, being able to shift from paper invoices to digital invoices is good for the environment for the sake of the trees and the planet. But also the second reason is kind of like the value that we create for our users. We are saving a lot of time by paying their invoices digital, and we're making it easier for people with disabilities and people overall to be able to pay their invoices at time, which is kind of like good for each and every and their personal economy.
So how did you celebrate this when you, because it must have been a celebration when you got both the success from the different cultures coming together? I see time is flying, so we need to speed up a bit. But
you can go ahead, Anna-Karin, and tell about the celebration.
Yeah, absolutely. So one thing that we have been really good at, and that has been important to make this partnership so successful, is to bring our teams together to celebrate. So when we reached that 30 million milestone, we did something that was very unlike us in Fort Knox. Of course, this whole organization was very inspired by Vipps. We organized a birthday, no, not a birthday party, sorry, a celebration party in the Botanical Museum, the Department for Extinct Species. It was, of course, Vipps' idea to do that. We put the paper invoice beast in the monter together with other extinct animals.
okay.
I think that we in Fort Knox, we would have come up with the idea to celebrate with cake, but that was very, very
Symbolic.
at the end of at the edge of what we normally did. But this fantastic idea was something that we would also never have done without Vipps, but very much appreciated and very, very important for our people.
Great.
And we have continued to celebrate, Kirsten, yeah?
And continue to collaborate, I assume.
Yes, so I can just say some sentences about that. So we are still working very closely together, both in a like operational way, but also in a more like strategic discovery/business development way. So each week, me and Anna-Karin's teams, we are having business stand-ups, we're having technical stand-ups. 4 times a year, we're having business review, where we are kind of like working on the more like strategic side of stuff of the things. But also one example, because what we really want and what we have talked about a lot is kind of like we want to function as one team. And one example is when I joined the team as a product manager in September last year. It was actually Anna Karin's people that kind of like had a lot of introduction to e-factura space and kind of like trained me. And I think that's a good examples of kind of like not sitting on each tue, which is called in Norwegian, but kind of like working together as one team.
Amazing. So if it's possible to change the Fort Knox culture, then there's hope for everyone. Yeah.
Yeah, but
thank you so much. I think we need to move on because time is flying, but thank you so much for this inspiring story. And I know, as a final remark, that you both work with partnerships and you've been inspired by this collaboration, and you now seek partnership with startups, both in the MasterCard Lighthouse program that you're running. So startups, check that out, and also with Vipps, I'm sure you are thinking ecosystem and partnerships and how you can work new services together with third parties. So thank you so much for sharing the story. Now we come to the conclusions. Tatiana, do you want to take it away for us, last few minutes, and then we'll send you at the end to hang with us. You will get the link to the full report. Yeah.
So yes, this is what the magazine is mainly about, and there are also, of course, a lot of other things that you can find inside. For example, we have DLA Piper, who are sharing a lot of very valuable legal advice for startups and corporates when they both start collaborating with each other. We also have an academic view, how to prevent failures in startup corporate collaborations, kindly provided by Dennis Kahn from University of Oslo. We also have a lot of success stories and very illustrative examples of such startup corporate collaborations. And actually, if you would like to read the whole story of Vipps and MasterCard collaboration, you will find it in full in the magazine. We also have some failure stories, so to say. Case study of the collaboration between Gjensidige and Bolink, one of the portfolio startups at the factory.
Which was first a success.
Which was first a success.
It has been a success, but it sort of turned a little sour after a while. Yes.
Exactly. And we also have many more advice on how to prepare and manage the partnership safely for the both parties. And to sum it all up, we would like to share some advice from Global Accelerator Network research, who want to share the secret recipe to succeed. Start with the right motives, both parties, create internal corporate buy-in, structure startup-friendly engagement terms, build a clear startup on-ramp. I think, Hans Christian, you know more about that. Establish transparent, time-based objectives. And last but not least, use the 3 C's framework. Communicate, communicate, communicate. Communication is the key in the startup corporate collaborations. Yeah.
Maybe move in together. Try that, you know, like Nets and MasterCard and Vipps did. Yeah. Yep. Okay, finally, a bit of self-promotion for the factory. If you are a startup, we are here to help you. We have programs for all stages. We have the Factory Discovery, a do-it-yourself online pre-accelerator. We have Gründer Academy, 3-month accelerator programs, the largest in Norway, running now with 32 companies. A new one coming in the fall. We have Scale Up Academy coming next year for a bit more mature companies with exciting partners. And we have done the Factory Capital, which can invest into your startup. And not least the Factory Growth, led up by Marinette Hekseberg, which is looking at providing different kind of growth services to help startups grow further. Next, please. And of course, also corporates out there listening, please get in touch with us. We can help you see the trends before anybody else. We can help connect you to the coolest and best startups out there in the Nordics. And we can provide you with exciting investment opportunities. So don't be sitting on the fence. You know, it's just about putting yourself out there and get out of your comfort zone. So thank you all very much. Next slide, please. Enjoy this magazine and guide and a great summer reading in color, great colors. Thanks to Bjørn Johannessen, our designer, who's also working in Seat and Tillit, two of the startups. So you can find you can download it here or request a copy at thefactory.no/startupbeat. Okay, that's it, and it's 12:58. Did we have any more questions or things to take here, Tatiana, or are we all good?
I think there was some question to Didrik. He answered that one. Petra also answered another question. If you guys have any questions, you can just unmute yourself and ask them out loud. Because I don't see actually a lot of questions. Yeah. Hi, are we gonna be able to get the slides afterwards?
I think we're sharing I think we encourage to download the Startup Beat instead. But if you need it, then contact us, because it's really better to download the full thing.
Yeah. Definitely.
Okay. I think we let people go and have a late lunch and get busy with their days. And good luck to all you explorers out there. Have a great summer and stay tuned. We have another seminar coming up on Thursday about the new stock option schemes of Norway by DLA Piper, sharing with the startups. So don't miss that. And have a great summer. Thank you all for listening today. Thank you to the speakers.
Thank you all.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.